Russia says it will annex 4 regions of Ukraine which held referenda earlier this week. It says it will take control of those areas in a ceremony on Friday. The widely discredited ballots were held in Russian-occupied parts of eastern Ukraine. The Kremlin-backed authorities in Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia and Kherson said the results showed that people overwhelmingly voted to join the Russian Federation. Separatists reported huge margins of victory, saying that in Luhansk, 98% of voters favored annexation. The European Union and the US are planning to impose more sanctions on Russia for holding what they call sham referenda.
We wanted to present together the 8th package of sanctions. Last week, Russia has escalated the invasion of Ukraine to a new level. The sham referenda, organized in the territories that Russia occupied, are an illegal attempt to grab land and to change international borders by force. The mobilization and Putin's threat to use nuclear weapons are further steps on the escalation path. We do not accept the sham referenda and any kind of annexation in Ukraine, and we're determined to make the Kremlin pay for this further escalation. So today, we're together proposing a new package of biting sanctions against Russia. So we propose sweeping new import bans on Russian products. This will keep Russian products out of the European market and deprive Russia of an additional 7 billion euros in revenues.
But we know the truth. These referenda are illegitimate and frankly outrageous. We expect Russia to use these sham referenda as a false pretext to try to annex Ukrainian territory in flagrant violation of international law and the United Nations Charter. In fact, Russia's actions are transparently fraudulent and have no legal significance whatsoever. We will never recognize these illegal and illegitimate attempts at annexation. Regardless of Russia's claims, this remains Ukrainian territory, and Ukraine has every right to continue to fight for their full sovereignty. In response, we will work with our allies and partners to impose additional economic costs on Russia and individuals and entities inside and outside of Russia that provide support to this action. We will rally global opposition to Russia's attempts at annexation, including at the United Nations. And we will continue to stand with Ukraine as they defend their territory and sovereignty, as we have been doing for the past several months.
The Swedish Coast Guard is reporting a 4th leak in the Nord Stream pipeline in the Baltic Sea. Russia says it's launched a terrorism investigation over the damage and called for a meeting of the UN Security Council. The EU and NATO also confirmed that the leaks were caused by sabotage. Nord Stream 1 usually ships gas directly from Russia to Germany, but Moscow suspended deliveries earlier this month because of a standoff over sanctions. Denmark and Sweden first reported the leaks near the island of Bornholm. Shipping near the lines has also been restricted. Norway is deploying its military to protect its oil and gas installations. For more on these developments, we can bring in Arise chief correspondent John Cookson, who joins us from London. John, good to have you on Newsday. How significant is this move by Vladimir Putin to annex 4 regions of Ukraine?
Hi, ladies. Good to see you and great to be on Newsday as always. Well, this is a major development, and tomorrow at 1 o'clock UK time, Nigerian time, in the Georgian Hall of the Grand Palace of the Kremlin, a formal ceremony will take place with officials and documents and masses of pieces of paper to formally absorb these 4 regions, that's Luhansk, Donetsk, Kherson and Srebrenica, into the Russian Federation. Follows, of course, 8 years ago when Russia did exactly the same when it illegally invaded Crimea back in 2014. It is a major development and certainly an important milestone in this continuing war following Russia's invasion of Ukraine back in February. So all eyes will be on Moscow tomorrow. President Putin will be at the ceremony. He'll make a statement, and maybe we'll pick up from him at the time what his intentions are. Is it to press on? Is this as far as he's going to go? And what is he going to say to the international community of universally condemn what's going on? This, of course, follows controversial so-called elections, referendum in the last 5 days in those regions where some people were taken with guns in their back to vote on whether to join the Russian Federation. And of course, they said yes. The votes up to 98 and 99% in all of those regions to join Russia. So this is a seminal moment in this ongoing conflict. And as I say, all eyes will be on Moscow tomorrow.
Absolutely. And we've already seen statements from the EU and from the White House about imposing further sanctions on Russia. But how will the West and Ukraine actually respond to this move?
Yeah, the news only came through a couple of hours ago, so there's been no big responses yet from Washington and London and elsewhere. We do know that further sanctions are now going to be put in place both by the US and the European Union, and no doubt the UK will follow suit. Earlier this week, the UK sanctioned a number of election officials who took part in the Russian election officials who took part in the administering the referendums earlier this week. But, you know, apart from that and firm words of condemnation, and of course these sanctions, that there is very little at the moment that the West can do about Russia's audacious move.
Indeed. Now, what does this annexation mean in terms of the direction of this war? Has it escalated things?
Well, for sure, because this now is declared Russian territory. It means that any attack on Russian territory, and there's fierce fighting on the edges of all of these regions, will be considered a major threat by Moscow, and Moscow could well retaliate with a tactical nuclear weapon. Now, you know, I even hesitate to speak about this because it's so horrible to contemplate. That nuclear weapons will be used for the first time since the Second World War. But Putin has threatened to do this. He has tactical nuclear weapons that can strike at a town and devastate a town. The radiation levels of these sophisticated nuclear weapons fired on rockets, the radiation levels are lower, which then brings in to the question, where will he target? Because if he targets the regions that have been annexed, the drift of the nuclear cloud will go towards Russia. So the target area, if he does decide to go down this route, has to be the west of the annexed regions, which puts Odessa, for example, in the frame, Mykolaiv as well. Odessa recently becoming under a lot of Russian drone attacks. Maybe the city's being softened up for some major assault, but all the intelligence suggests that Russia is getting ready to ramp up this war, having established this important bridgehead that it sees in the east of the country.
And amidst all of this, there are now also reports of another leak in the Nord Stream pipeline. What more can you tell us about this?
Yeah, just to remind ourselves, on Monday night, monitors in Denmark registered undersea explosions on the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 pipelines that run from Russia to Germany. Only one had been commissioned. The other one was not in use at the time, Russia says because of maintenance, but it was filled with gas. And it now transpires that there were 4 explosions. Originally we thought there were only 3 leaks, but now there are 4. And at this hour, I mean, hundreds of cubic feet of methane are disappearing up into the atmosphere all the time. And this, of course, is hugely damaging for the ozone layer and will contribute to global warming. Also, what impact is that having on sea life? Because marine mammals and fish cannot live in this environment. We've yet to see what the impact will be. And who did it? Fingers in the West are pointed to Russia, but then Russia says it wasn't ours, and the pipeline was owned by a Russian company, so why would they blow up their own pipeline? Or was it, in fact, Putin sacrificing Gazprom, the owner of the pipeline, to show to the West that this is what he can do if necessary, if the West continues to support Ukraine with military might, as it has done. And there are a number of pipelines that the Russians could strike at, crossing, for example, between Norway and the UK, but also others travelling into Germany. So that's where we're at with the Nord Stream 1 and 2 at the moment. Discovery of a fourth leak and a fourth explosion, but who did it is still an international mystery.
A mystery indeed. Certainly not the best news, but fantastic analysis as always. Arise Chief Correspondent John Cookson, thank you so much for joining us on.